It's been a wild week of wrestling. The CM Punk stuff that has gone on this last week has been absolutely wild. I fully expected to come into this week's show and honestly give an opinion on All In and all the shenanigans that happened at the IWC's biggest show, but that's not the case. You know, that's not what happened. First off, before we get into it, I'll give a shout out to Tony Khan. You filled up Wembley. I'm not sure how many of those people actually paid to be there, but it looks like you put on a decent IWC show. They look happy. They sound happy on the internet. So as long as you appease your fan base, I guess you're doing exactly what you set out to do. I haven't watched the entire show. I've watched a couple matches, watched clips. I intend to watch the entire show at some point this week. I just haven't had the time. But once again, AEW, your biggest headline coming out of your one of your biggest events of the year completely centers around CM Punk. And if you read the dirt sheets, it's tough to decipher at this point what is real and what isn't, right? First report said that CM Punk and Perry got into a fight. I believe that's probably true, right? Then there's the reports that both guys are suspended. I actually believe that's true. Then you have Miro denying everything happened. Then you have other reports that Miro and CM Punk almost got into a fight. Then you have reports that CM Punk walked into Tony Khan's office and has threatened to quit, chewed him out. You have reports that Perry's asked for his release. Sean Ross Sapp says something. Brian Alvarez reports something else. And Dave Meltzer's too busy jerking off to Kenny Omega to give a fuck about any of this that's going on. But this is worst case scenario. This is as bad as it gets for AEW, because every time you have an event of any kind of significance, it seems to be clouded around CM Punk. And I don't think that's CM Punk's fault. I'm not going to jump onto the blame CM Punk, party here. Tony Khan comes out here and says the list of banned things you're not allowed to do in AEW. They made a big deal about this, right? You got to get these things approved by producers. We're going to be a lot more safe. WB doesn't want us doing all this wild shit. But that was all horseshit. That was complete bullshit. Here we go. AEW All In. John Moxley's got fucking barbecue skewers coming out of his head. Jack Perry's doing a spot on Real Glass, turning to the camera, calling out CM Punk. After CM Punk, do you think CM Punk was just telling Jack Perry this stuff to be an asshole? Or do you think CM Punk understands that taking a bump on Real Glass is probably not a good idea? So CM Punk tries to talk him out of spots like that. He mouths off on camera, and then apparently some kind of altercation happens in the back where CM Punk and Jungle Bitch, they get into an altercation and Jungle Bitch gets choked. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of CM Punk haters on the internet in the IWC. They're going to blame him no matter what happens. Regardless of what happened, CM Punk is the problem. And I'm going to work off of the assumption that I at least believe, because so many people have reported it, that Jungle Bitch and CM Punk got into an altercation in the gorilla position, and CM Punk choked Jungle Bitch out. Or not out, but choked him until they were broken up. That seems to be the most wildly accepted story at this point. But I don't understand this delusion that I see the IWC continue to spew over and over with IWC logic, and they're trying to place blame on CM Punk in this situation. I see the IWC claiming that if you're CM Punk, you just have to ignore this. You just have to ignore when Adam Page does something. You just have to ignore when the Young Bucks come into your locker room. You just have to ignore when Jack Perry tries to make a fool out of you on a national pay-per-view. This isn't fucking high school. You can't just let guys get a rise out of you. This is real life. The Elite are the mean girls, and they're after CM Punk's livelihood. It is obvious at this point CM Punk does not fit in to what the AEW Mean Girls have selected as the mold as what you're allowed to be inside of AEW. He wants to do things differently, and they immediately have turned on him. I can tell you this with all honesty. in any situation, especially one where I come into the situation feeling paranoid or feeling under attack by a certain group of people, if somebody comes up to me and gets in my face to start shit, I'm fucking them up first and I'm figuring out how to deal with it afterwards. Simple, plain and simple. There's no turning the other cheek. There's no looking the other way. I don't understand that mentality. That's not how I was born. That's not how I'm bred. That's not in my DNA. I don't understand the mentality of letting a fucking 4'7" guy who dresses like Tarzan, who rides on a dinosaur's back half the time. I'm not in the business of letting that guy punk me out. No pun intended. I'm not turning the other cheek. It's obvious to me. I don't know how the IWC doesn't see it. This is gatekeeping by Kenny Omega. He has all of his little drone soldiers like Hangman Adam Page, Jungle Bitch, the Lieutenants, the Young Bucks. They all just don't want Punk to be successful. They want Punk out of the company. They will do anything, whether it's sabotaging his travel, whether it's getting in his face, calling him out during the pay-per-view. They will do everything in their power to get a rise out of CM Punk. And you guys turn and you look at CM Punk and you go, you have to be the bigger man. A lot of people aren't built that way, guys. There's a lot of grown-ass men aren't built that way. The part I'm having a hard time comprehending is that Tony Khan and his want to hold on to CM Punk. I don't get it. I think Tony Khan has this visceral fear deep down inside that if he fires CM Punk, and I don't think CM Punk deserves to be fired, but it's obvious that Tony Khan's not going to handle this situation. So I think the right thing to do is to get rid of CM Punk at this point because Tony Khan has aligned himself with the elite. So I think Tony Khan has this visceral fear of CM Punk leaving AEW and somehow finding a way back to WWE and becoming successful. Because I think on so many levels, that will expose so many problems inside of the AEW company. I mean, imagine CM Punk main eventing a WrestleMania. Imagine CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. That feels like that could be the biggest match of 2024. I honestly think I've said numerous times that I think CM Punk versus Kenny Omega is the biggest match you can make in wrestling right now. I think I stand corrected. I'd like to believe that if CM Punk jumps ship back to WWE, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns is probably the biggest match you could make in all of professional wrestling. How do you get there? CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble. It writes itself. It's right there for it to do. But it's obvious to me that Tony Khan, man, he has no ability to police his locker room at this point. He even came out and said it. I can't make guys get along. No, you can't. When you own and run a company, you very easily can make guys get along, or you can get rid of the problems. Like, that's one way to do it. And whether it's unrightfully CM Punk, whether he decides, which he never will, to get rid of the cancer that is the elite, you have to do something. You have to do something. But it's obvious that Tony Khan is content with letting the elite run the playground. And he's content with them attempting to get rid of anything they don't like. They want to run the world's biggest indie shows, and they will do it by any means necessary. And this is the issue. This is the issue I have with the court of public opinion. All the little IWC bitches that think CM Punk is wrong. Why isn't he fired yet? I mean, look, honestly, if CM Punk was at fault in any one of these situations, he would be fired. The problem is that I think when Tony Khan goes and gathers up all of the information, it becomes obvious in every circumstance that CM Punk has to be punished for retaliation and not for starting the shit. That's the only explanation that makes sense. If he started any of this shit, I guarantee you he's fired. He's out the door without any complaint of anybody. If CM Punk starts this shit, you're gone. But this is what doesn't get talked about for guys like Edge. Anybody who's considering AEW as an option. It doesn't get talked about enough is that any talent considering going to AEW that feels like they're on a higher level than Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, they're not going to find success in AEW. Name one guy who's jumped ship from WWE to AEW that was perceived to be a bigger star than Kenny Omega that has found success. CM Punk, they're not letting him find success. Miro, They're not letting him find success. Even Cody was kind of forced off to the side because I think he just didn't operate in the exact way that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega wanted that company to go. And I think Cody saw the writing on the wall and said, hey, not going to make a big shtick about this. Don't want to ruin our friendship, but I'm going to take my talents to the other company and kind of work that lifestyle. You know, Omega has to be top dog. He's just not an alpha. He can't do it by using his talent, so he has to use the mean girl mentality. And the Young Bucks have to be in control of the tag team division. They can't do it by being alphas. They have to do it by using a mean girls mentality. If you're Adam Cole, you have to understand they only let you play on this playground because you're submissive to their rules. I think that they tolerate MJF because he stays far enough away from them. But name anybody who's gotten ahead. If I was Tony Khan, at this point, I cut my losses. I fire CM Punk. I let him go. And I submit to the elite. Because that's what he's done essentially without coming out and saying it. It's like one or the other has to go. It's CM Punk or it's the elite. And I just don't see Tony Khan letting Hangman, Omega, the Bucks, Jungle Bitch, that whole part of the roster go. I think it's just that's too deep of a hole to fill for him at this point. So it's got to be CM Punk, right? That's the core of his roster. That's who he's chose to ride with. And he's got to let CM Punk go. And if for some reason CM Punk finds a way back to WWE, then Tony Khan gets to watch how a real company handles a guy who has authority problems. And I believe that right now, in September of 2023, this is a real possibility. This is no longer a hypothetical like we used to bullshit about the last couple of months. I think that this is plausible that CM Punk reaches out to WWE to just gauge interest. Question is, would WWE entertain the return of CM Punk? Anybody remember a couple months ago when CM Punk was wandering around backstage in the WWE locker room? And it honestly, at the time, it was kind of reported that he was at least accepted and treated cordially by most people within WWE. Now, I know he was asked to leave, but that was right around the time that Tony Khan was bitching about all the contract, tampering and things like that, even though it's obvious he does that shit with Edge and everybody else. But, you know, he's the one to point it out. But you remember, there was a point in time where CM Punk was walking around the back, and it felt like WWE didn't have a big problem with him. Now, you can hate CM Punk all you want. If you're part of the IWC, listen to me. You can hate him all you want, but here's the problem. Everywhere CM Punk has shown up, there's been an audience to watch what happens. He shows up in UFC, people are watching. Whether he goes there to get his ass kicked or to find success, people were watching. When he returned to wrestling in AEW, it was a major deal. It was a television spectacle. People were watching. And when he returned on Collision this last time holding the bag with the AEW belt, people showed up to watch. Whether it's to hate on him, whether it's to praise him, CM Punk makes television. And let's be honest, right? CM Punk is literally the reason that AEW Collision exists and is able to exist. Has there ever been an entire wrestling show other than Collision that was built on the back of one superstar? I'll wait. Name it. Tell me one. One show. Dynamite wouldn't succeed if it was just Kenny Omega and a bunch of nobodies. SmackDown wouldn't succeed if it was just Roman Reigns. Raw wouldn't succeed if it was just Seth Rollins or just Cody Rhodes. The fact is that CM Punk by himself, with absolutely no help of Tony Khan, is doing at least 500,000 viewers. That's not bad considering that you've strapped an entire show onto his back. Like, let's be legitimately real here. If I'm starting a wrestling company today, right now, I'm probably looking at who's available talent-wise, and I'm going, Roman's number one. If I can get Roman Reigns, I take Roman Reigns, start the company with Roman. Seth Rollins is probably number two. MJF is probably my third choice just based on age and the attention he can draw with the things he says. But CM Punk's four. That's a short list. There's zero chance I'm taking Kenny Omega. There's zero chance I'm taking Hangman Adam Page. There's zero chance I'm going after the Young Bucks. That's just, I'm sorry, that's just reality. CM Punk sells tickets. CM Punk sells merchandise. People show up to watch CM Punk. And I honestly believe that this has been one of the most mishandled locker room situations in the history of pro wrestling.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Dope show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should already know.